Hello, people. How's it going? Well, July 2nd. I'm a day late. Sort of like Jeb Stewart. I'm a day late. So I think I have a more legitimate excuse than he had. Well, maybe not. Anyway, it is the 160th anniversary of the most famous battle of the American Civil War, which actually started yesterday. I'm gonna try to make this into a two-part thing. I'll do one today, tomorrow, and today and tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm gonna probably show some books of interest on the subject. Battle of Gettysburg. I would like to go there one day. If it's on my bucket list to go see. Oh, this chair. I'm sure you're all getting tired of this chair, but that's all my. But July 1st through the 3rd, 1863, Robert E. Lee decided to go north. He decided to go north mainly because most of the war at that point, in Eastern Theater anyway, had been fought in Virginia. So he was trying to go up north to get supplies from Pennsylvania, from the northern areas. You would have thought he would have learned something when he went to Antietam, which actually probably isn't accurate, because Antietam is in Maryland, and that's really not north. Pennsylvania is north. I mean, come on, it's attached to one of the Great Lakes. But, July 4th, my book fell. I'm going to try. My book does not want to stay up. My basic notes, once again, I always have my notes. It was under the generalship, the Union Army was under the general of George Gordon Meade, who was actually from Pennsylvania. Lincoln had offered the job to, why did I just forget his name? I hate that. Anyway, I'll remember it. For some reason, my brain has decided to go blank on Reynolds. Thank you. John Reynolds. General John Reynolds, who he didn't want it. He said, no, I don't think so. Mainly because Lincoln, you're kind of, you just can't keep your hands out of the war. Let us fight the war. Lincoln, in the beginning, until Grant came along, meddled a lot. But anyway, after Reynolds says, no, I don't want the job, he offered it to Meade, who probably reluctantly took the job. The thing is, Meade was never fired. He stayed in command of the Army of the Potomac, the Union Army, until the end of the war. People think that Grant took over. No, Grant took over the generalship of all the armies of the war after that. But Meade fought at the Battle of Gettysburg. I mean, did he have a choice? Probably not, because he was trying to find Lincoln. He was trying to find General Lee, who was trying to get the war out of the South for a little bit. But anyway, the Union strength at this time would have been 93,000 plus. The Confederate strength was probably 71,000 plus. The casualties, this is killed, wounded, and I think missing, because it doesn't tell me the thing where I got this stuff, was 2,300 people, 23,000 people. 3,072 of those were killed. On the Confederacy side, there was 20,551, and 2,592 were killed. The Battle of Gettysburg is fascinating. I mean, it is an interesting history of what not to do, particularly on the third day. I'll get into that eventually. Reynolds probably should have taken the job, because Reynolds was killed on July 1st, 1863, of course. I believe, if I remember correctly, Buford, of course, was there first. General Buford, he was with the cavalry, infantry. They were there, and I believe it was Heath. I'm doing this by memory. I try to do these things by memory to help my brain. I mean, I could read it. I mean, it can't be unheard. But if you've seen the movie Gettysburg, you've seen Buford. Buford is played by Sam Elliott. I'm 60 years old, people. My brain does not function as fast as it used to. It should, but it doesn't. But anyway, I mean, the first day at Gettysburg, you know, I mean, Buford was basically told by Reynolds, you need to hold this position, basically, in Seminary Ridge in Gettysburg. And he did up to a point. I mean, he did up for a while. I mean, the Confederacy didn't expect to see them there. Heath and there was one other general who I can't remember whose name it was, just did not think the Union Army, they thought it was just dismounted cavalry and a few foot soldiers. It was actually, no, it was a huge part of the army, a regiment, I believe, of the army. And so the Battle of Gettysburg really was about boots or shoes, because the Confederacy and their little contingent there, well, it was a small contingent, it was a division, I believe, thinking they were just up against a few foot soldiers, found out that they weren't. The Battle of Gettysburg started out as a skirmish. It started out as a small little pitched battle, which escalated into a bigger battle, which the first day is a mishmash of things. It's the Confederacy was not there yet. The whole army of the Confederacy was still on the road trying to get there. And, you know, General Lee is trying to figure out where Stuart was, tell him who am I facing, where's the rest of the Union Army. Jeb Stuart gets blamed for a lot of things during Gettysburg. And maybe he does partially, but Lee's instructions were rather not clear enough for Jeb. I mean, Jeb Stuart was a glory hound, just like Custer. But Jeb Stuart should have been there, but he was actually following Lee's orders up to a point. But, you know, Seminary Ridge was held for a little bit. They did pull back. They had to. They had no choice. They were just being outnumbered. I mean, the Confederacy was typing in more men than the Union had at that point on the first day. If you ever watched the movie Gettysburg, that was all very good. It's very accurate. I mean, it's not perfectly accurate what movie is, but I mean, I don't know how to explain Gettysburg to people who really probably aren't really interested and probably already know these things even harder. But think about it. This battle did not have to happen. This battle did not have to take place. I mean, Lee really had no... Whether he had a choice or not, I don't know. I know why he did it. Most historians know why he did it, to relieve the South. So they can pull in their crop. The South was starving. The South could not plant. The war, most of the war took place in Virginia. And Lee is the Army of Northern Virginia. And the Union is the Army of the Potomac. Tomorrow when I do part 2, I'm going to show books. It'll give you a better idea of those involved, and because I might be able to do it better. But Gettysburg is that pivotal moment in American history, that pivotal battle that the Union side desperately needed. They had to find some general to at least stand and fight. And Hooker's problem really wasn't all Hooker, though it was at Chancellorsville. Part of the problem was Lincoln. I mean, Lincoln, unfortunately, in the early parts of the war, was a hands-on kind of guy. I mean, he got in the way, I think, more often than not. He micromanaged the war. And until Grant said, look, you're either going to let me fight the war or I'm not going to take over. I'm not going to take the job. And that's what Grant basically said. Look, you either got to let me fight this war to win it, or you need to find somebody else who will do as you think they should do. Grant won the war. Once they put Grant in charge, he knew what to do. Because Lee realized when Grant, I'm on the Grant and I'm talking about Gettysburg here, Lee overestimated I'll go back to Gettysburg. Lee overestimated his army. I think at Gettysburg, Lee's pride and his sense of invincibility, particularly on the third day, caused him to lose the Battle of Gettysburg. It wasn't just because he lost Stonewall Jackson at Chancellorsville. I don't think they would have won at Gettysburg even if he had been there. even if Ewell had not stormed Little Round Top when he was supposed to on the first day, which is what Lee wanted him to do, I think they still would have somehow. But there are a lot of, I mean, the story of Gettysburg is the story of Joshua Chamberlain and Hancock and, well, Reynolds too, and Longstreet and E.P. Alexander. He's the artillery officer for the Confederacy. Of Hood. And it's an amazing 3-day battle that really did. Next to the fall of Vicksburg, the very next day on July 4th, 1863, was probably the great turning point in the war. I think even if they'd lost Gettysburg, the Union still would have won the war because they were in control of the Mississippi. And I think even Lee knew that. Once Vicksburg fell, I might do a Vicksburg one, but I'm not sure. But Buford, what little men he had at that point in the first day, sent by Reynolds saying, you have got to hold this. And also the 1st Minnesota was here too. I live in Minnesota. So I will probably try to discuss the 1st Minnesota in the Battle of Gettysburg. Two excellent books on Gettysburg dealing with the 1st Minnesota. Last Full Measure by Richard Moe and Pale Horse at Plum Run. I can't remember what the author's name is. I'll do that book tomorrow. I'll show it to you tomorrow. But the 1st Minnesota was there, and they literally were almost annihilated. I mean, they didn't. They tried to stand their ground, but anyway, I find Gettysburg interesting. I'm trying to make this interesting. I'm trying to keep going with these ideas of doing history things. Hopefully, I have not. This first day of Gettysburg is almost like a prelude to the real major conflicts in the next 2 days, which actually would have been today and just tomorrow. Because the Battle of Little Round Top is tomorrow, or today. But in this thing, it's the next day because I'm talking about the first day. Little Round Top is always interesting because General Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, played by Jeff Daniels, excellently, by the way. Tom Berenger plays an excellent Longstreet, by the way. I like this movie. I just do. I mean, I think it does spend a little more time on the Confederacy side than it does on the Union side. But then again, that's how the book goes. I like the movie. I find it very well done in the battle scenes and what it must have been like on the first day, the second day, the third day, Pickett's charge. I mean, poor Pickett. I mean, when General Lee says, form your division. General Lee, I have no division. Lee literally destroyed his division. He literally destroyed it. Having men, I think it was like 1.5 miles or 2.5 miles. I think it was 1.5 miles over open field. Longstreet was correct. This is a dumb idea. You're going to get a lot of men killed. Let's go back. Let's go back to Virginia. But I think Lee's problem was he was so convinced. This is the height of pride in this man. He really believed his force of will could win this battle. I mean, it was almost like he couldn't see the obvious, and he couldn't. I don't think he could. I mean, the battle didn't have to be fought. And in fact, Lee tried not to fight a battle at that point. In the beginning, on the first day, he didn't want to fight. But unfortunately, cooler heads did not prevail, and people started firing at each other, and then they kept firing back. It is a fascinating battle. I mean, there's so many nuances and so many interesting stories and cool. I have a lot of books on Gettysburg. A lot of books on the American Civil War, and a lot of books on Gettysburg. I will try to show as many as I can tomorrow when I do part 2. I'm doing it on tomorrow because tomorrow is the 3rd day, and that might be a good day to do it. I'm almost at 15 minutes already, and I do like to keep these under 15 minutes, at least 15 minutes or less. Give people time to read them or watch them. It is interesting to me. As I say, please subscribe, like, comment, share. Behave yourselves, people, because you know I'm not going to. And why is that light? Sorry, but for some particular reason, it's not the light from outside either. I think it's the camera. Anyway, behave yourselves, people. Later. Later, later.